everyone. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another conversation with MotorAge. I'm Shannon Brandyberry, Managing Editor, and today again I'm speaking with Brian Canning, who's one of our management contributors. And today we're going to have a little conversation about technician productivity. So, hi, Brian, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Shannon. How are you? And it's very good to be here today.
Thanks. I am doing well. So to get our conversation started, the first thing I would like to talk about is just how you define technician productivity.
Well, that's a really great question because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. In the end, I'm going to come up with kind of an easy formula, but the way we look at tech productivity are really three ways, and there's a number of different formulas floating out there. A bunch of people have a different way of measuring it. But I think the most commonly accepted is tech productivity. First of all, is just quite simply being there. It's number of hours actually in the shop versus the number of service hours that you're there. So it's just being there. The second is tech efficiency, and again, putting it in very simple terms, that's quite simply taking the labor guide and beating the labor guide, or striving to beat the labor guide every time. It's really just your performance, or your ability to turn out the work versus what the amount of labor was sold. And then finally is proficiency, and what proficiency tries to do is just tries to look at the number of billable hours that you generate in a week. That's what pays the bills, versus how many hours you're on the floor. So if you're on the floor for 40 hours and you're producing 40 billable hours, you're pretty good. If you're producing 20 billable hours, you're on the floor 40 hours, then we've got some things to worry about. But truthfully, it's, again, you can take all those formulas, but the proficiency, the last one, is the one I like the best. If you're on the floor, you need to be producing.
Well then, with all of that being said, it seems like it's kind of obvious that, being a productive technician, being productive in any job is important. But specifically for today's owners, why is technician productivity important?
Well, truthfully, it's the most important thing for any shop or shop owner. You're very limited in your ability to generate profits. Parts profits, you're very much limited. You can only produce so much revenue, not to mention the fact that parts sales always follow labor. It's not the other way around. You generate a lot of labor, you'll generate good numbers of parts sales. And if you're efficient in doing that, you'll be a very profitable shop. If you're not efficient, if you're not generating those billable hours, you're not going to be profitable, and therefore you're not going to be successful. And it's an area that, more than almost any other area, you can cut your expenses, you can do whatever. It's an area that you have a huge opportunity to positively impact your shop. And I mean reasonably. I'm not talking pie in the sky. I'm talking with reasonable effort. You can have a dramatic, very dramatic impact on your bottom line, on revenue, on your wallet.
Okay.
That's why it's important.
So then, who's responsible for technician productivity? Is it fall on the tech, the owner, the service advisor, all of the above?
Well, the easy answer is it falls on everybody. Everybody's responsible for it, but it's just very funny coincidence. If I ask technicians who's responsible, he's going to tell me a lot of reasons why the service advisor and the service manager and the owner are responsible, which is true. If I ask the owner or the service manager, he's going to tell me it's the techs. Unfortunately, nobody's agreeing on who's responsible. And again, the important part is that everybody is responsible for productivity. The ones most responsible, I'm going to make a few shop owners and service managers angry with this, is the shop owners and the service managers. They are the ones that set the priorities. They're the ones that create shop process. And too often, they're the ones that get in the way of production. And what I mean by that is when they do things that take the technician away from generating those billable hours. If they're sending the tech to go take Mrs. Jones home because she's a great customer and we want to make her feel special, we just shot that technician's day. and we just shot that technician's week, probably, because we probably make a regular habit of it. If we're doing things like going to great lengths to control shop flow, putting all these steps in so that every little thing is taken care of, and forgetting that we have cars to work on, that's a problem. In other words, if the process is so cumbersome that the technician can't turn his wrench because he's going through 47 steps, we've got a problem. And then finally, and I make a lot of technicians mad with this, but they're responsible for tech productivity as well. The owners and the service managers have the authority. They're senior. They're dictating policy, so they are the most responsible. But technicians, you know, when they show up, they need to be ready to work. They need to be time efficient and doing the things they need to be doing, not on the cell phone, not surfing the web, not smoking 47 cigarettes a day. They need to be doing the things they can to generate those billable hours. So your answer is everybody's responsible. Everybody has to contribute for it to be a win.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And you talked a little bit about the role that the technician plays in it, just being open to holding themselves accountable. Anything else you want to talk about with their role, or is it pretty much everybody just needs to be responsible about this?
Their biggest asset is their technical knowledge, but there's a price with having that technical knowledge. You also have to be productive. Knowing and doing are two very different things. So first and foremost, the technician has to come in there with the idea of being productive. Again, I'm going to talk about the owner and the service manager just for a second here to answer your question. It's their responsibility to set expectations for production. I'm amazed sometimes at the number of technicians that have never heard from their owner or their service manager as to what production looks like. As a technician, how can I spell success? Most of them have a hard time answering that in the shops that they're in, because nobody's ever talked to them about that. So before I get to the tech, I just want to say that we have to set the expectation. So now we set the expectation. We're there to work, and we need to put our heads down day in and day out to generate those hours. We have to be aware of what the billed labor is for what the customer's paying for an hour. We need to beat that hour to be a productive technician. So it's, again, being situationally aware of what the expectation is, and if we're up against a 2-hour clock, we need to be striving to beat that every time. We need to be, again, just efficient in how we set up our box, how we set up our bay. We can't be looking for things all day long. Our job is technical knowledge and fixing cars, and we have to be in a position to do that every day.
Okay. Well, and what are contributing factors away from the technician that are driving this issue in many of today's shops?
I think the most obvious one to me is shops not having a process in place for inspecting cars. What a lot of owners do is complain that they don't have enough cars. And again, I've seen where we're not doing a very good job with the cars that we have coming into our shops. We're not being thorough in how we inspect them. We're not being consistent in how we inspect them, and we're not doing little things like selling maintenance, and we're not doing scheduled services. We're not looking at service history. So Mrs. Jones came in last month. We told her a couple months ago, and we told her she needed a transmission service. She shows up today wanting an oil change, and we didn't check service history. We didn't tell her she needed a trans service, and we sent her down the road without generating that revenue. And that to me is I guess in the industry we would call it the low-hanging fruit. For the last 3 years in a row, and I'm sorry, I love to quote the statistic, the last 3 years in a row in the U.S., there's been in excess of $60 billion of unperformed maintenance in the United States. This at the same time that cars are older than they've ever been. 11.4 years is the average car in the U.S., and the very obvious result of us not looking at the cars, not looking at the service history, not doing recommended services, is we're not generating the hours. We have technicians that are starving. I want to feel that technicians are motivated and they're going to check out every car. They should be, but truthfully, it's the owners and the service managers that have to set that expectation. So that, to me, is again the low-hanging fruit, the obvious thing that you can grab. That's gonna get the sales, the productivity, the dollars, the labor where it needs to be. Good for everybody.
Absolutely. Then we've talked about the factors behind the problem, the issues in the shop. What are some good solutions to for a shop owner or a service manager if they're having issues with production in their shop?
I think a very important step would be to start having conversations with two people, with your technicians. Start talking to them about the things we talked about here today, what your expectations are. Tell them what production looks like, what we expect as owners and service managers, but also talk to them about that inspection process. And I'm talking about with a tablet, an electronic sheet, or inspection system, or just a piece of paper. But it has to be consistent, and it has to be a process, not, Joe, yeah, I checked it out, it's good enough, because that just doesn't assure the same process each time. The other thing is, and this one comes under the category of customer service. Talk to your customers. If we see things that are wrong with the car, or going to be wrong before the next service interval, and we're not mentioning to the customer, we're going to have a much more difficult time selling when that customer comes in 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. But if we tell them today that they need ball joints, they need four-wheel alignment, whatever it is, Mrs. Jones, not today, but you're getting to a point where this is going to need to take place. She knows that. She's not wild about having to spend that money, but she knows that that's coming. So it's very important that the next time she comes in, that we talk to her. Hey, remember last time? Well, we really want to get that done today. She knows. And if we don't mention it, quite honestly, we lose integrity. It makes it look as though 6 months ago we were trying to milk some money out of her. But customers, I love Toyota and Honda customers. They're trained from the day they get that car to do maintenance. Most other brands aren't quite as good. High-end European, I suppose that comes with the price tag, but and I'm going to say the normal average person's car, Honda and Toyota owners, Hondas in particular, live and breathe that maintenance, and they come in demanding that you maintain their car. We need to set that same tone with all of our customers, that when we start having those conversations, we're not going to sell everything that first day, but they're going to start knowing that, hey, they're checking out my car for me and they're telling me what's coming, so I know when I walk in the door what to expect. So long-winded answer, but great inspections when the car is in, and a continuous dialogue on maintenance when we're talking to our customers. And those types of things will it's just an engine. It just gets your customers interested in maintaining the car rather than throwing it at you to do that oil change and not much else. It gets them to be part of the process. At the same time, technicians that are generating increased salaries and increased wage, they get bought into that. They understand that it's good for them. It's hard to talk to them when they're not making the money. And we need to make our technicians rich. We need to do everything we can to make them, rich. That's the only way to say it. Because if they're doing well, they're happy. They stay where they are. They don't go anywhere else. And our customers are happy because we're doing a good job of taking care of their car, making it safe and reliable. So again, long-winded answer, but it's all of us taking care of our customer.
No, but you're right. I mean, it's everybody's responsibility to keep things moving forward in the shop. So hopefully after today, owners and managers will take a look at some of their processes, keep things simple, make sure they're reiterating the importance of inspections, and we can get everybody on some more productive tracks in the bays. So.
I think that you touched on a very good point, and I'll be short-winded, I promise, but just a very basic approach to keeping your customers informed and keeping your technicians aware of what you want. A lot of us are scared of that leadership part of it, but it's key And we're not talking about beating anyone up. We're talking about keeping everyone informed of where we're trying to get to. That's all. Not rocket science.
It's very true. Information, more learning and more training. So.
Exactly.
Brian, I really appreciate your time today, and we will talk again and do another conversation with Brian about management topics for today's shops. So until next time, on behalf of Brian Canning, one of our contributors for the management section, I am Shannon Brandyberry, Managing Editor for Motor Age Magazine. Thank you all for joining us today, and I hope you have a good day, rest of your day in your shop. Thanks.
Thanks, Shannon.